Okay, awesome. It looks like we have some of y'all joining, and I think as people kind of continue to join, we will let them in. Um, but I wanted to go ahead and welcome everyone to our October presentation meeting of the Alabama chapter of the Voice Foundation. We're super excited you're here. Thank you for joining us on this beautiful day. We've discussed it's pretty much beautiful throughout the entire state of Alabama. So thank you for joining us this afternoon or evening, early evening. So I'm really looking forward to hearing from Michele. But first, I want to welcome. I don't think we have any too many new faces with us, but maybe one or two. So this is our leadership team for this year. So you hear from me often in emails and see a little bit of stuff on social media. Chloe also works with us on our social media. Elizabeth Benson is also on here with us. She is our president. Edie is also here with us. She is our past president. And we have Valerie with us as well, who is our president-elect. And I'm not sure if I see Leveda on here just yet, but she works as our secretary and treasurer. So we are super happy to have all of you. We have a lot of kind of different walks of life in this room right now, but I think everyone kind of joins in. We all know that we love the voice. So I just wanted to let you know about our next meeting. Is Sunday, January 26th, usually about 5 p.m. We will let you know starting in December, hopefully, what our meeting, who will be presenting for our meeting. But go ahead and mark that down on your calendars. And then I just want to let you know what we've got today. So today joining us is Michele Patzakis. So we're super excited to have her with us. I want to introduce her, but I'm going to be honest and say that she has done so many things that I think it's honestly best just to have her kind of tell us what we have, what she's kind of going to talk about. I do have her bio, and I will be throwing it into our chat so you can read it later. But Michele has done some incredibly interesting things, so I'm definitely looking forward to hearing from her. And I'm going to welcome Miss Michele. Let me spotlight you over here. Let's see. Oop, we might be doing it at the same time. There we go.
Hello. Thank you so much for having me. And, I'm on the board of the Southern California chapter. And it was so exciting first of all, it was terrible when Dr. Hapner left Southern California, went to Alabama. But so I got to watch the genesis of creating your chapter and watching all that you're doing, which I think is amazing, and the Voice Foundation and everything that they do, I think is so important, and especially reaching out to the vocal arts community, which I think it's so important that we connect also with all of the work that is being done in the science and research and medical realm to inform our practice and everything that we're doing. So I thank you for what you're doing, and it's just such an honor to be here. So with that, Elizabeth asked me to talk about how the things that I've done have come about, like what's the genesis and how can other people sort of get involved, especially if you've had sort of more of a traditional route that as I have. And so I thought I would just kind of take you through it because honestly, it's such a tapestry of like weaving and connecting with people and organizations that really has taken, decades, but that kind of all comes together. And I think is kind of amazing because I never could have imagined where I am right now versus when I started at the beginning. And so that's just kind of the amazing thing about life. And COVID being one of those things that, really kind of changed a lot of things for so many of us. So I'm going to start and try to share my screen here. And okay, here we go. So I titled it Harmonizing Health from the Concert Hall to the Clinic, Navigating New Roles and Collaborations, Working at the Intersection of Arts and Health when Singing is the Prescription for Wellness. And, I always I loved singing not only because I loved music and I loved listening to music and I was inspired by music, but also how it made me feel and how it felt to actually produce the sound, how it felt to participate in vocal activities. So I love that has extended further into so many realms, and how we can use our voice in all of these ways that can be sort of effective in so many categories of health and wellness. Okay, so here's just some of my background and what I'm doing right now and my training. So right now, principally, I'm a teaching artist with LA Opera Connects, which is the education and community engagement arm of LA Opera. And they do some amazing things, which you're going to hear about. And I'm really excited and honored to be a part of that organization. I'm adjunct faculty at both Azusa Pacific University and Pasadena City College. I teach this semester. I'm teaching advanced vocal pedagogy as well as applied voice, and I've also been an assistant director for productions there, etc. And I love being at Pasadena City College. This is my second year there. And then I'm director of the San Francisco district of the Metropolitan Opera Laffont Competition, and on the executive board of NATS and SoCal Voice Foundation in Los Angeles, and then on the board of the Lauren L. Zachary Society for the Performing Arts, and then chair of the Hellenic Studies program at UCLA. And then my training started out at USC Thornton School of Music, the Art Juilliard of the West, and in vocal performance. And I was on a track to, be a professional opera singer. That's what I wanted from the beginning. I had seen Marilyn Horne in recital when I was a senior in high school and decided that's, I wanted to do that. And she had gone to USC. And then went to New England Conservatory of Music and got my master's of music, again in vocal performance, and participated in the opera program there, and got to work with some amazing people. And then years later went back for my doctorate at USC School of Music. So something I want to say about that, which I think is really important and interesting, at least for my trajectory, and I don't think it is usual in a lot of doctoral programs. You have sort of core curriculum that everyone needs to take, but they require that you have 2 major fields and 2 minor fields. And each of these fields require their own chair and your own faculty, and then as well as exams, so the oral exams at the end, as well as original work and research. So when I came in, I had already done an undergraduate degree at USC, and my professor for vocal pedagogy was Dr. Thomas Cleveland. Little did I know that he was on the doctoral committee for Dr. Edie Hapner. Of course, that was later. But Dr. Cleveland had trained with William Vernard. And so we were using that text at the time, but also it was sort of to be with one of the OGs. I wanted to go deep into the science and into the this realm of vocal arts. And so I took it upon myself to, when I first started my degree, to go and get a baseline video stroboscopy with the intention of connecting with the USC Keck Department of Otolaryngology. So, I was trying to put into practice what I believe, that we need to, take care of our vocal health and, monitor our health. But also, I wanted to connect. So I scheduled the appointment, and I met with Dr. Odell, and I brought up the idea that I wanted to connect with their department and to do coursework or train, etc. And she said, coincidentally, we have just hired a new person who's a speech language pathologist who specifically wants to work with a DMA. And they're here right now. They're not even credentialed. They don't even have an office set up. I'm going to go see if they're here. And so she left the appointment, and some time passed. I want to say like 10 minutes or so. And she said she's here. And as soon as we're done, you can go to her office. So I went to her office, and it's Edie Hapner. And from that meeting, she consented to create a program for me, which was not in existence. And we created the field of vocal arts medicine, meaning the minor field, within my degree program. And with that, I got to have the experience of, for all intents and purposes, sort of being a clinical fellow light, I'm going to say. But I got to shadow and train with the laryngologists there, the speech language pathologists, and have this tremendous experience of working in the hospital and in the clinic. Speaking about collaborations, when I was at USC and I was studying, there was a young woman in our voice studio who was Greek, and I knew her from my church, and I do a lot of world music and Greek music at the church. And she, her mother had passed, and as part of her process for healing, she was going through old memorabilia and found some letters from her grandmother and her mother. And she decided to set them to music and wrote some original songs and performed them for us in a studio. And so again, this is part of the healing of music and voice, which again, there's so many ways that we can use our voices and music for healing. And when I heard them, I said, oh my goodness, this should be an opera. And because I had a relationship with the Niarchos Center at UCLA, I proposed that it be produced by them, which it was. And so she wrote a role for me. It was premiered in 2023. It received an NEA grant. But really, the opera also is a vehicle to healing for multi-generational trauma from the genocide of the Greeks. So this is hundreds of years of occupation and extermination. And so that was like a very healing thing for her, but also for those of us, not only that participated in it, but that witnessed it. Like that, I co-produced a play called The Women of Zalongo, about these women who, with their children, once they were captured, separated from their families and their husbands and parents, were made the choice to dance and sing off a cliff and take their own destiny into their hands, as opposed to being slaughtered and raped and pillaged. And so it's a very famous event. And the Dance of Zalongo is a piece of music, but it's also memorialized in many paintings. And if you go to the Louvre or anywhere else, you will find images of this very dramatic event, which symbolizes women's strength and empowerment. And again, connected with music and singing. I've also been an arts administrator now. And I mentioned my being a performer. One of the paths to having a career is through competition. And so I was a winner of the Los Angeles district and Boston district, and then the Western region of the Metropolitan Opera auditions, and also the Lauren Zachary national vocal competition. And then I was invited to be the director of the San Francisco district 4 years ago, because it was virtual and everything was required knowledge of technology, and it didn't require us to be on site at the time. So I was asked to come in, but now I do it remotely, and I go up to San Francisco to participate. But again, that's something that happened. Now I'm an administrator, but it happened because of my performance experience, but also because of the connections that I made with the organization. When I was at USC, I had a teaching assistantship, which required that we taught individual voice and group voice classes, which was an amazing experience. But then because it's such a large area of the non-major voice at USC, there's a designated head teaching assistant, which actually administrates the non-major program, which is about 150 students. So I was doing the placements and managing the courses and serving as a liaison with who ended up being our vocal pedagogy, vocology faculty, Lynn Halding. So again, an incredible sort of convergence of when I came in, that Dr. Hapner came in, Lynn Halding came there. And so to have this sort of convergence of these amazing voice science, vocal arts experts at USC was just fabulous. So with the administration, I already had a relationship with LA Opera as a performer. I started out doing performances in the healthcare space. LA Opera has some incredible partnerships with hospitals and healthcare facilities across the county, including Children's Hospital and City of Hope. So I was initially hired by LA Opera to do a performance at the City of Hope for the staff, and that is sort of simulcast into all rooms and across the hospital. They do these regularly, and as well as like holiday caroling, etc., as sort of just like a gift of wellness and relief for the staff and for the patients. So the first aspect of sort of this arts and wellness and arts in this space is really that sort of more performative appreciation, listening, connection through the words and music. When Renee Fleming came into LA Opera as an advisor for special projects, because she has a particular interest in arts and wellness and music and the mind, they wanted to sort of promote not only her work, but the work that was being done across Los Angeles County, which we have some incredible organizations and work that is being done in this sort of intersection of arts and wellness. So I was asked to be a program coordinator and help sort of create this inaugural Arts and Health Week and Summit. And in this series of events, we featured organizations that were doing that kind of work, as well as having a summit where we could present them, as well as Renee Fleming and her connections with neuroscientists like Dan Levitin and her work with Francis Collins, as well as the NEA, the National Institutes of Health, and the World Health Organization. So we know now that she has been appointed an advisor for arts and wellness with the World Health Organization and also with the Kennedy Center. And she is using her operatic fame as a platform, and her platform to make these connections. So as you may have experienced, wherever she goes to perform, she always has some kind of arts and wellness symposium, summit, event, because she's very interested in promoting the work that's being done. When I was going to do my doctorate, one of the reasons why I really wanted to pursue the vocal arts medicine as well as the music teaching and learning was I had taught a class called Moms and Tots. I did a lot of different things, with the school districts, etc. But working with parents and their children under the age of 5, so before going to formal elementary school. And we did songs. I always did a lot of music and rhymes. And one of the mothers came up to me, after a couple years into the program, and she said, my daughter was diagnosed with dyspraxia. And she's been going to speech therapy. But I have to tell you that doing these songs and the repetition of the little rhymes and the sort of little games and things that we would do, that was also in conjunction with hand motions and movements, she said was not only, she felt like equally helpful, but she was able to take it to the speech pathologist, and they were able to incorporate some of them into their work together. And so it was sort of deepening the experience for the child. That really piqued my interest in the kind of work that can be done with voice and with music and in this sort of medical space. So now we know, like with Alzheimer's, with a lot Parkinson's, etc., and then these neurological disorders, how different parts of the brain can be connected through doing these activities. And again, LA Opera has many programs which address this. So one is at Rancho Los Amigos, which is a rehabilitation facility, and those with head trauma and are recovering, they have a sort of a bedside, either virtual or in person, sort of really individualized sessions that are very effective and impactful. There are veterans programs working with PTSD, doing voice and singing programs to help with their sort of calming the nervous system with sort of those mental health challenges that they're also incurring. And then, of course, the Alzheimer's partnership with Alzheimer's LA, and really finding connection with the nostalgia we know of music that we know from about age 12 to 22 is sort of a sweet spot for this nostalgia and memory, and then triggering speech and communication. In my vocal arts medicine training, I really learned about interprofessional practice and what that is. So it was sort of an honor then to be able to go from doing this training within the clinic and the hospital, and then be able to be part of a reference community of voice teachers working with the laryngologist or the speech language pathologist, and having the opportunity to be part of their healing journey. But really something that was sort of profoundly interesting for me as a voice teacher, especially doing classical voices, we come in and we're told this is going to be years of training. It's going to take you, a decade to get to the place in your career where you want to go. And the voice lesson and the information and all of the stuff that you're developing, you sort of have this understanding that it's going to take a long time. So working in this space, I had to learn, we need to sort of make it quicker and, condense it and really find the kernels of what it is that really they need to know, what the patient or the client needs to know, the student needs to know, and understand very quickly a path to having them understand what that is, and having it be useful for them to be able to maintain it so that it's something sustainable, and then they can sort of graduate from working with the voice teacher. Even with mainstream voice students, they get sick, you sort of are rehabbing always from an illness, or you're retooling after doing a particular role, or going on the road and there's voice fatigue or whatever it is. And so I wanted to know, just even from the non-pathological perspective, all of the things that I wanted to be able to do as a voice teacher. So it was exciting, and still is, to be able to sort of work in that space in collaboration. I think is more common now, but got to go into the cadaver lab and, see and dissect the larynx, which was very useful. And again, this was through the doctoral program at USC. And then I've done my continued education, where I do programs like the Science Informed Pedagogy Institute. I got a NATS grant this last summer to go to the Coastal Carolina University group pedagogy program with Amelia Bigler, but it was canceled by the hurricane. So I'm looking forward to going next year, but I'm always looking to hone my skills as both a teacher and also to keep up with the voice science, which is why I'm so grateful for organizations like the Voice Foundation, which are providing, cutting edge information about the research and who's at the forefront of that. So during my doctoral work, again, I'm an educator and I'm a voice teacher. And I feel like as a voice teacher, one of the most critically important things to that someone is paying me for is my ear. It's my aesthetic, and that's why it's so important to train, to understand all the styles, and even within classical voice and understand the different styles and languages and etc. And then how the production is being translated in the mechanism, and also then how I'm hearing it. And my perspective of what I hear is going to inform the directives that I give my student, right? And so someone's ear is just, that's gold, right? And so I, with Dr. Hapner, came up with this project, the singing teacher's ability to identify concerning signs of vocal pathology. So how do you know if someone's voice is just tired, or they're using it incorrectly, or there actually is pathology? And, there's sort of where the consensus is, if your voice is not optimal or is having issues 2 to 3 weeks, depending on who you talk to, consistently, and hasn't recovered from a known illness, etc., that you should be examined. Putting it into practice can be more difficult, because I know I've referred people that have had to wait very long to get appointments to be seen. I also know students who could not afford to, based on their insurances, et cetera, to be examined. So that is a problem. But determining if there is a pathology and getting early intervention can be the difference between something that's career altering versus something that's temporary. And so having the voice teacher as sort of this first responder and a trusted source as an ear, training voice teachers to understand what could be pathology and how to support and direct your student is critically important. So because the students rely on the voice teacher, because the singer cannot hear their voice as it's heard by others, because even small changes can be concerning signs, and we know that early intervention is important. This role of the voice teacher to be able to discern the problems is critically important. I was, again, lucky in that we had this Dr. Hapner creating the USC Voice Center at the time, and then Lynn Halding facilitating with the Thornton School of Music, which allowed for sort of the initial years of having baseline video stroboscopy for all of the vocal students across all of the disciplines at USC. So in the theater, musical theater, and jazz, classical, vocal arts. And so they all came in to, they had the opportunity to be seen by the laryngologist, to have a video stroboscopy, and then to consult. And as part of the year that I was doing this, this research, they had the option to participate in the study and opt in, and then were taken through a series of protocols, which included speaking and singing tasks. We did, in the end, get these 15 samples, and were able to follow through. So we had, for the voice teachers, I had again, the pilot study, 2 female voice teachers that I considered to be extremely experienced. They were experienced performers. They were very experienced voice teachers, very successful voice teachers, and also had taught in academia. So they were sort of in this role of being, I'm going to call them a first responder to for vocal health for these singers. And the sort of interesting thing was that when the voice was healthy, 72% of the time, the singing teachers were correct. But when there was diagnosed pathology, it was a 32% correct response. So it's very important that I think we understand as teachers that we may not be able to discern that, and we really need to rely on the medical community to really know and make that diagnosis, and then be free to sort of teach what we know with confidence, and also for our students to be able to follow directives with confidence without sort of fear. So during the pandemic, when we were not singing, I came across a news report about the English National Opera doing a program using the out of sort of work singers at the English National Opera. And then you have a nationalized healthcare system. And so they had this wonderful network of patients that were part of a long COVID population that needed sustainable treatment and support for their breathing. And they realized we have singers that know breathing, and maybe we could create a program that could put this together. So I saw this news report, and so I called my friend at LA Opera and I said, I think you should be doing this at LA Opera. And we have these wonderful, connections already with the hospitals and healthcare systems that you're doing already. And they jumped at the chance, and UCLA Health ended up signing off to create this program. So initially we had another artist that was in the pilot portion, but for 3.5 years, Nani Sinha and I have been teaching this class, and it has been incredible. Our patients are so grateful to have the opportunity to do the tasks sort of in a non-medical setting. First of all, it's virtual, so it's in their home, but many of them are obviously going for pulmonary rehabilitation. And it's much more fun to do it with a straw than it is for the inspirational, spirometer, or, and then to sing songs and work on their a sustained exhalation and taking the deep breath, and understanding that we do this for ourselves as healthy opera singers, and that our bodies are different every day. And so to kind of normalize the sort of ups and downs of the voice and the breathing has been amazing. So our classes really address all of these components, the mental health, the physical health, and the vocal health. And something that Edie Hapner told me when I was talking to her about this class, which I think is really an excellent point, which I think has not been addressed, is that a lot of the COVID long haulers have not necessarily had video stroboscopies. We don't know if there's paresis or paralysis. We don't know if they had injuries from intubation necessarily, right? That's not necessarily part of their assessment and workup. And so by doing the singing classes and kind of addressing the vocal control and resonance and some of these things that we know as singers that we can do to help with the efficiency, because they may be breathless just because they're not getting good approximation, right? So it's a way that we can help support their voice use and their breathing that's very different, I think, from what they're getting in pulmonary rehab. And I think it would be fantastic if we could research it from that vantage point, which has not been done. I felt like this little line of mine was a sort of during the civil rights movement. It was sort of a song of like empowerment and for the community. And so this is one of the first songs that we did. We choose simple songs, things that they probably know. And most of our participants are not, singers usually. And when we've opened up the microphones and we've had them sing, it's been remarkable at how they've been able to really sing amazingly well, and also feel such pride and joy for being able to like get these new skills and just and apply it in so many different ways. So, I think vocal arts medicine, when the prescription is singing, I feel like we should be prescribing singing for not only for lung health, but our brain health, for mental health. There's so many ways, and the voice is free and available to everyone. So it's sort of so cost effective, whether we do it in the school systems and the healthcare systems, in all the organizations that we have a reach. I think that it's important that we advocate for how the voice can be of service. So here's another collaboration, which I was so honored to be a part of. Again, sort of through my participation just in vocal arts at USC, there was a cinema student who was interested in, her area field is cinematic sound, right? So she's in the film business. But as part of her interest in sound, she participated in the CI Music Hour, the Cochlear Implant Music Hour, which was created by Dr. Ray Goldsworthy, who is at Keck in the Department of Otolaryngology. And he himself has a cochlear implant. And cochlear implants are incredible with speech perception. But with music perception, has not been very good. And for those CI users that have, background and interest in music, but everyone wants to listen to music and have the ability to enjoy and participate. So that's his passion, and that's his field. And so through attending this CI Music Hour, she decided to do this project, Hear My Voice, and solicited the Hearing Loss LA organization as a partner to recruit participants, then created partnerships between a hard of hearing student and an instructor from Thornton. Some of us graduated, some of us still in the program. And then with a team of people, music therapists, Dr. Goldsworthy. And then embodiment was very important. We felt, and the primary investigator is Jury Huang. And she really liked this idea of really being connected with the body and the voice and the mind. And so incorporated also Kaufman's School of Dance. And so our lessons all included, sort of mindfulness, and then breathing exercises, vocalises, and then singing songs, and then even learning an original song, which one of the music therapists wrote an original piece, which in and of itself is like a positive affirmation. And as sort of a test for like control, for doing new music that they didn't previously know. So here's one of my participants. And so when I was first asked to, do this, which I served as not only a teacher, but then I became sort of one of the master teachers and a teaching consultant, and then a presenter from when we did the Arts in Action, Visions and Voices, and then served as an advisor on this multidisciplinary team. But I sort of was expecting people with very limited experience in singing and voice. And my first student was Sandy Blake, who had been on Broadway. And so she had gone on for Cheetah Rivera, if you can imagine, in a lead role, and has been in, commercials and television and theater across the country, and was a music teacher and an expert singer. And she one day suddenly lost hearing in one ear, and then several years later lost hearing in the other ear. So she has a cochlear implant in one and a hearing device in the other. And so our journeys as teachers were all very different because our students were very different. And really, I shouldn't say students, because we were really partners and collaborators. I was learning as much from them as they were from me, because this is an area that I had never understood, experienced, and still can't, obviously, as I have my hearing. But the aspects of trauma around hearing, and the loss of connection to hear the stories, the lack of joy and confidence in using their voices, the fatigue from just attempting to just participate in normal sort of regular daily activities and tasks is huge. And then the nature of how they lost their hearing, it's different. Some are born with it, and some experience it, earlier in life, and some, like Sandy, lost it later on. So their perceptions of their voice capabilities are all very different. But it was so amazing as a voice teacher, and sort of having done things like thinking I was just going to be training expert opera singers to win competitions and auditions and be on the stage, and then to be able to have the opportunity to work with this population was incredible. So we had different expressive goals, for all of them. Some of them did do singing, but some it was, rapping and oration and beatboxing, Sprechstimme, reading a poem, also doing ASL. Not all of them had ever had experience with ASL. So again, part of the embodiment, in addition to doing the dancing. We talked about that the cochlear implants have some challenges with music So here's one of our, we had regular sort of check-ins and Zoom meetings, but here's pictures of all of us having a virtual lesson, and the different pairings. And I don't know if you can see the joy. It was the most joyful experience to be part of this project. And here's some from the first iteration. There were 3 iterations of it. So the third one ended up in a sort of a concert presentation at the USC Brain and Creativity Center in Camilleri Hall, as part of this, Visions and Voices series. And, about 8 of them got up and actually sang in public, which is just like, it was so exciting. But to hear the testimonials, just amazing. So, moving on to something else that I've recently done with LA Opera. As I said, we love all the mindfulness and the wellness that is happening through the singing. And during Mental Health Awareness Month in May, they said, we'd like to do something for our staff. And would you come and do just like a 30-minute session? And so I did a mindfulness session, but I did it with singing some simple songs, with some movement, with some breathing techniques. And they loved it so much, then they asked me to do it for their costume department, which is amazing. So I got to my first time ever going to the LA Opera costume department. And then they said, well, can we film some segment, maybe just a short one? And so they have a simulcast for many of their productions through the season, and they were doing one for Madame Butterfly last month. So I scripted a mindfulness session, again using some music, and we did a 2-minute session which was simulcast in at Santa Monica Pier and in another local park, which they kind of rotate outdoor spaces for these free simulcasts. And then there will be one that's a longer 8-minute version that'll be online. But I love being of service, again, just using voice to promote wellness in all these different spaces. And then we have, again, Renee Fleming, who is championing this on a global level through her role at the World Health Organization and the Kennedy Center, and with her continued sort of on-site grassroots campaign everywhere that she goes across the world. So again, thinking I was going to just have this career in the performing arts and be a vocalist, and then to be able to do things like the Hear My Voice and the Opera for Life and Wellness, and work in vocal rehabilitation and be a part of the Arts and Health Week and have all these collaborations. LA is, I think, particularly exceptional in a lot of the things that are being done here, but it should be a model, I think, for what is happening. I can't even go into this, all of the work and the advocacy that is happening across our region, which is supported by our board of supervisors. And so this is where elected officials and inviting them and to having them be a part of our work and letting them know what is happening is can be so powerful and really change, I think, the future of the work that we're all doing. So with that, I thank you, and I welcome any questions or comments that you have. And
Thank you so much, Michelle. I want to be the first to say thank you. You've actually inspired me a ton. This is something that I'm really fascinated with. I know we're a little out of time, but if there are if there are any burning questions, I'd like to encourage you can speak up quickly. I think the talk was just so inspiring. I know I have a ton. I may reach out later. But you have definitely inspired me to definitely think outside of the box that I think sometimes in school we can find ourselves in. And even being out of school, which I forget, I've been out of school for quite a while, that I still feel like I'm in that box. So thanks for inspiring us to kind of think out of that box. Are there any burning questions that we have? No? Okay. Well, and if it's okay, Michelle, I may encourage people, I feel like I'm sure you would be very willing for them to reach out to you directly too if they had any questions. Though you
Absolutely.
can also tell me no.
No, absolutely. Anytime.
Michelle, you have always been amazing, and just I'm exhausted with the list of things that you're doing. But can I talk to you this week about the cochlear implant program? Because that just blew my mind. So thank you. And of
Yes.
course, with Ray, who's amazing.
Yeah.
Thank you
Thank
so much,
Thank
Michelle.
you.
It's a pleasure to have you. I want to give one final reminder about our upcoming meeting in January. So keep your eyes peeled on our website, our social media, and on our email. But it's just been an absolute pleasure. So I hope that y'all will come back and join us. And Michelle, you are always welcome to come join us as well.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you so much.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
And I see we have lots of thank yous in the chat, Michelle.